America, JOC here with your Ranting Politics headline updates, where we are diving into today's most explosive political stories that you need to know about. Coming up in the next 18 minutes, we've got Secretary of State Rubio throwing down the gauntlet to Iran on nuclear enrichment, and their response might surprise you. Plus, emotions are running hot in London as Ukraine peace talks hit a Crimean-sized roadblock. We'll also dive into AG Pam Bondi's latest greatest hits of budget cuts at DOGE, a dozen states taking Trump to court over his tariff blitz, and Michelle Obama finally explaining why she skipped the inauguration. And no, it's not what the gossip blogs want you to believe. If you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome to America's fastest growing daily news rundown, designed specifically for your commute, run, or coffee time. Stick around for all this and more in your daily dose of unfiltered news and common sense commentary. This is Ranting Politics Headline Updates. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has drawn a firm line in the sand regarding negotiations with Iran, declaring that Tehran must completely abandon its uranium enrichment program if it wants to strike a deal with the Trump administration and avoid potential military conflict. Speaking on journalist Bari Weiss's podcast, Rubio stated plainly, if Iran wants a civil nuclear program, they can have one just like many other countries can have one, and that is, they import enriched material. This hardline stance represents a significant departure from previous diplomatic approaches. The Iranian response was swift and unequivocal. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi fired back that the core issue of enrichment itself is not negotiable, setting up what could be an insurmountable obstacle to progress. We're seeing a return to the tension that characterized Trump's first-term approach to Iran when he pulled out of the Obama-era nuclear deal that focused on monitoring rather than eliminating Iran's enrichment capabilities. Now, with technical-level talks expected this weekend, the gap between positions appears vast. Rubio acknowledged the challenging path ahead, telling Weiss, I would tell anyone we're a long ways from any sort of agreement with Iran. It may not be possible, we don't know, but we would want to achieve a peaceful resolution to this and not resort to anything else. The stakes couldn't be higher with the Middle East already on edge. Rubio warned that any military action at this point in the Middle East, whether it's against Iran by us or anybody else, could in fact trigger a much broader conflict. There was momentary confusion when Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, initially suggested the U.S. might be open to allowing Iran to continue low-level uranium enrichment. After backlash from conservatives in Israel, Witkoff quickly clarified that Iran must stop and eliminate its nuclear enrichment and weaponization program. Meanwhile, in what might be a positive sign, Rafael Mariano Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, announced that Iran has agreed to allow a UN technical team to discuss restoring camera surveillance at nuclear sites. Grossi, who met with Iranian officials in Tehran last week, described Iran as engaged with a sense of trying to get to an agreement. That's the reporting from the Associated Press, and we'll keep you updated as these high-stakes negotiations continue to unfold. Peace talks aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict hit another roadblock yesterday as discussions in London concluded without any agreement. Representatives from the US, UK, Ukraine, France, and Germany walked away from the table with little more than promises to keep talking, according to reporting from the New York Post. The main sticking point? Crimea. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky remains adamant that recognizing Russia's claim to the peninsula is completely off the table, despite this being a central component of Trump's proposed peace deal. Zelensky didn't mince words, saying emotions have run high today over the U.S. suggestion to cede Crimea. He reminded everyone that Ukraine's constitution explicitly bars recognizing any part of its territory as Russian, posting on X, Ukraine will always act in accordance with its constitution. Trump's final offer peace deal would give Russia formal U.S. recognition of Crimea as Russian territory, a major departure from Washington's long-standing Wells Doctrine, which has refused to acknowledge annexed territory for the past 85 years. Russia would also get de facto recognition of its occupation of 4 eastern regions, along with a pledge that the U.S. wouldn't support Ukraine joining NATO, plus sanctions relief. In return, Ukraine would receive security guarantees from European forces, notably without U.S. involvement, and Russia would return a small portion of Ukraine's Kharkiv region. The deal would also include navigation rights in the Dnieper River and post-war rebuilding assistance. The White House isn't pleased with Zelensky taking his objections public. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters, "Unfortunately, President Zelensky has been trying to litigate this peace negotiation in the press, and that's unacceptable to the president. These should be closed-door negotiations." Trump himself took to Truth Social to express his frustration, writing, "It's inflammatory statements like Zelensky's that makes it so difficult to settle this war. He has nothing to boast about." Despite the tensions, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha described the talks as a constructive exchange of views and reaffirmed Ukraine's commitment to peace efforts led by U.S. President Donald Trump. He added, "Ukraine wants the war to end more than anyone else in the world. Meanwhile, Russia seems in no rush to resolve things." Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed Trump's push to end the war quickly, telling Russian outlet VGTRK, "The issue of settlement is extremely complex, of course, so it is hardly possible to set some hard deadlines and try to rush the resolution of the conflict into a shortened time frame. This would be an exercise in futility." The Trump administration has previously threatened to walk away from mediation efforts if progress isn't made. So far, they've shown willingness to pressure Ukraine by briefly pausing intelligence sharing and military aid last month, but have yet to follow through on threats to tighten sanctions against Russia. With both sides digging in their heels on key issues, the path to peace remains as elusive as ever. The Department of Justice is wielding the budget axe with gusto, and Attorney General Pam Bondi is not shy about showing off the results. According to Fox News, Bondi announced what she called some of the DOJ's greatest hits in wasteful spending cuts, part of the broader efforts by the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE as it's been nicknamed. Among the fat being trimmed is a whopping $2 million that had been allocated for national listening sessions of individuals with lived experience. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but apparently it's now deemed unnecessary. Another $695,000 is being saved by eliminating funding for what was described as a parallel convergent mixed methods case study research design to assess the efficacy of police departments' LGBTQ liaison services. That's quite a mouthful for a program now on the chopping block. The DOJ is also cutting $250,000 that was previously used to fund a grant for working with incarcerated transgender individuals providing gender-affirming care, including housing in gender-appropriate facilities. More to come, Bondi promised in a post on X, suggesting this is just the beginning of a larger cost-cutting initiative. These moves are part of the Trump administration's broader DOGE effort to slash what they consider wasteful government spending and reduce the scope of federal agencies. Just last week, DOGE announced it had worked with the National Science Foundation to cancel 402 diversity, equity, and inclusion grants, saving taxpayers approximately $233 million. Among those canceled NSF grants was $1 million for something called anti-racist teacher leadership for statewide transformation. The NSF confirmed the changes, stating, "Today, NSF announced it is terminating awards not aligned with agency priorities, ensuring current and new awards are consistent with our mission." While supporters praise these cuts as responsible fiscal management, critics argue they specifically target programs designed to support marginalized communities. The administration, however, remains committed to its efficiency campaign, with DOGE publicly commending Bondi's efforts at the Justice Department. A dozen states, led by New York, have just thrown down the legal gauntlet against President Trump's sweeping tariff policies. According to CNBC, these states filed a lawsuit Wednesday in the U.S. Court of International Trade, seeking to have the president's recently imposed tariffs declared illegal and unenforceable. New York Attorney General Letitia James didn't mince words in her statement, saying, "The president does not have the power to raise taxes on a whim, but that's exactly what President Trump has been doing with these tariffs." At the heart of the lawsuit is a fundamental constitutional question. Does the president have the authority to unilaterally impose these tariffs? The states argue emphatically that he does not. Their complaint specifically challenges Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, as legal justification for his tariff policy. Since returning to office, Trump has issued a series of executive orders implementing a range of tariffs on foreign imports, including a massive 145% tariff on products from China and 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico, plus a 10% tariff on imports from most other countries around the world. The lawsuit points out that in nearly 5 decades since IEEPA was enacted, no other president has used it to impose tariffs based on any declared national emergency. The state's legal filing argues the Constitution assigns to Congress, not the president, the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays pulled no punches in her assessment, calling the president's actions not only economically reckless, it is illegal, and adding that Arizona cannot afford President Trump's massive tax increase. This isn't the first legal challenge to the tariffs. Just last week, 5 small businesses filed a similar lawsuit in the same court. However, on Tuesday, a 3-judge panel denied those plaintiffs' request for a temporary restraining order that would have suspended the tariffs while the case proceeds. The White House has yet to respond to this latest legal challenge from the states, which include Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Minnesota, New Mexico, Oregon, and Vermont, alongside New York. Now to a story making headlines for what didn't happen rather than what did. Former First Lady Michelle Obama has finally addressed her notable absence from President Trump's second inauguration, offering a surprisingly straightforward explanation on her podcast, IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson. It started with not having anything to wear, Obama revealed in Monday's episode. I had affirmatively because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off. So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team I don't even want to have a dress ready. This decision quickly spawned widespread speculation about her marriage, which Obama directly addressed on the podcast. My decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism, she explained. People couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart. According to the New York Post, Obama characterized her choice as an act of personal boundary setting, something she's now trying to teach her daughters Sasha and Malia. I want them to start practicing now the art of saying no, she said. Feeling like they're enough right now. It's a practice. It's a muscle that you have to build. Actor Taraji P. Henson, who joined the podcast conversation, praised Obama's decision, saying women often serve as shock absorbers for everyone else. When do you ever get to live for you? Henson asked. I applaud you. I'm happy that you are taking care of yourself in the way that you need to. The former First Lady previously addressed these rumors on Sophia Bush's Work in Progress podcast earlier this month, emphasizing that her decision was simply about making the right choice for herself, not her marriage. I'm here really trying to own my life, she stated. It took everything in my power to not do the thing that was perceived as right, but do the things that was right for me. And that wraps up today's episode of Ranting Politics Headline Updates. We've covered quite a range today, from Secretary Rubio's hardline stance on Iran, giving up nuclear enrichment, to the stalled Ukraine peace talks, where Crimea remains the sticking point. We dug into AG Bondi's DOGE budget slashing, those 12 states suing over Trump's tariff authority, and Michelle Obama's personal reasons for skipping the inauguration. What a news day, folks. Headlines that matter without the partisan nonsense. That's our promise to you. If you enjoyed today's rundown, make sure to follow us on X at RantingRP. You can also catch full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. For articles, bonus content, and our complete archive, head over to rantingpolitics.com. This is JOC signing off, and thank you, our loyal listeners, for choosing Ranting Politics Headline Updates. We'll be back soon with the updates you need to navigate these interesting times. Remember, we don't align with a political party. We align with you, the American citizen. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay free.